Apparently you guys want me to review more laptops, and that's incredibly tricky in Australia. I'm not sure what all the other YouTubers out there are doing if you're just buying every laptop under the sun and reviewing them, but I suspect that you're probably reviewing them and returning them, which is just something that I can't do here. I can't buy the latest thing from Amazon. We don't have Walmart or Best Buy. I can't use something for a couple of days and then just send it back. If you buy it, there has to be a reason that you're going to return it, a fault or something. So for that reason, I can't really go out there and buy the latest and greatest and tell you guys what I think. What I can do though, is I can borrow my boss's laptop. In front of me, this is the Razer Blade 16. It has an i9 processor, a 4090, and 32 gigabytes of RAM. I also suspect it's very expensive. What does this thing cost, Roy?
About $7,500.
$7,500. I need to get a pay rise, I think. Today I'll be recording this footage using an Elgato streaming device. I don't know which one it is. There's a box for it there, the HD60X. And the reason that I'm doing that is because if I run a piece of software like OBS on this laptop, it actually tanks the FPS by up to about 20 or so. So if we've got a game that would run normally at, I don't know, 70 FPS, you'd be looking at it running at around 50 or so. And we don't want to do that. We want to see, a good representation of what it's able to do without any heavy duty software running in the background. So I actually have this set up with a HD60X plugged into my Lenovo Legion 5, which I have reviewed previously, and that'll be doing a majority of the heavy lifting there, at least from a recording standpoint. Anyway, that's it. Let's get into it. Let's take a look at some games. All of our footage today is recorded on the Elgato HD60S with my Legion 5 doing the heavy lifting. In front of me we have the DJI Pocket 3 recording the screen externally. And all of our stats are taken care of by the NVIDIA app, which is not the GeForce Experience app. It's actually the new NVIDIA app that's been made available. I think that's still in beta at the moment. We're looking at some Destiny 2, and we're doing that at 1080p. Let's take a quick look here. So, 1920 by 1080p at the highest quality settings. We have that on the whole way down. There is no DLSS on Destiny 2. So we do have reflex though. So all the high settings, 1080p, let's have a quick run around and have a look. So we're looking at our frame rate there of about 140 frames a second, which is pretty high, considering we're running at the higher settings. Destiny 2 is a pretty well optimized game. And it's something that I dropped for a little while and recently got back into during the final shape. So here we are in the Pale Heart. Destiny 2 is an excellent game. It's also quite, initially it was quite expensive to get into with the amount of DLC that they drop on the thing. But it's probably more accessible than ever. Not as accessible as it could be, but certainly more accessible than it has been previously. You can get basically the entire collection for about 30 or so Australian dollars. And Final Shape DLCs, around the $60, $70 mark. In Australia. So, all right, 2560 by 1440p, apply those changes. Yes, we're good. All right, what are we looking at now? 120, 123. Let's go to a spot with some enemies. I've mentioned this before in my other videos, but playing while talking is a learned skill. And playing skillfully while talking, harder still. So, forgive me here. It's not about how well I play, it's just about performance. Looking there at about 120 frames. Head over to video, still in the highest settings there. And we'll jump up to 3840 by 2160. The reason I'm doing 3840 by 2160, by the way, is because this is a 16 by 10 screen. So that means that if I leave it at a 16 by 10 ratio when I'm recording, you're going to end up getting some black bars on the footage when I finally upload it to YouTube. So I have to try and stick to 16 by 9 ratios. And that's it really. That's the reason why I'm doing it. So still full 4K, but not using the 16 by 10 screen. Obviously when you're just playing on the screen itself, you want to set it to 16 by 10. All right, that's enough. I'm just going to keep playing this otherwise. Really enjoying Destiny at the moment. So let's drop off this. Let's play something different. Alrighty, let's take a quick look at Cyberpunk. So we've got a quick preset here of custom. What we're going to do is we're going to set it to ultra, but then turn off the resolution scaling, which will set it into custom territory, but show us that we have everything here in high. On the video, we have it set to 1920. We'll go 1920 by 1080. Hit apply on that. and have a quick look and see what's going on here. So we're looking at about 170 frames per second, and that's with DLSS turned off, and that's pretty solid. That's roughly what I would expect. But let's kick it up a notch. So we'll go to settings here. Let's dial that up there to 2560 by 1440. Have a quick look at the graphics again. Still set to ultra with resolution scaling turned off, ray tracing turned off as well. We'll hit apply. Jump back out. And we're dropping now down to around 100, 105 frames per second. It is a little bit funny playing this on someone else's save with their own control schemes. Roy likes to play inverted, which always throws me for a loop. I'm sure obviously these frames are going to drop once we get into some action, which, you know, might be able to do. Get some max tack in here to mess with us. But yeah, about 102 there. All right, let's go up to 4K, see where we're at. Settings, and we'll go to 2160 for our 16:9 resolution. Have a look and see what this is capable of doing. No DLSS at all. 40, 50, 53. Let's say around between 40 to 50 frames there. And again, it would really start to struggle the more that there is on the screen. And we're going to go up to ray tracing on ultra, but with DLSS super resolution turned on. Some ray reconstruction and frame gen as well. Still set there to high and ultra, and we'll see how well it handles this. So we've got our ray tracing turned up all the way there. Pretty good. We've got around 75 frames there, staying relatively solid. Drops a little bit, but this is about as pretty as Cyberpunk gets without turning off DLSS. Obviously, if we turn off DLSS, then the frame rate's going to tank, is what I mean, and we don't want to do that. So DLSS does a lot of heavy lifting there without too much of a drop in fidelity. Looks good. Let's quickly jump back into settings again. Have a look here, super resolution. Let's turn on some ultra performance. See if that makes a difference for us. 70, 98. I mean, there you go. 100 frames per second, ultra performance. Doesn't look that different to me, especially on this screen. Obviously, if the screen was bigger, then we'd be looking at something different. Roy's sensitivity on his controller is super low as well. But we're not judging me today for my my skills at gaming. That's for another video, I imagine. Cool. Just for a bit of fun, let's go over the settings again. And we're going to go all the way over here to overdrive ray tracing. Let's see how that plays out. 70, 60, 59. Might be able to lock in 60 frames there on the overdrive ray tracing. Again, I know I could spend a really long time in this game checking all the reflections and walking around and all that sort of stuff, but we don't have that kind of time. So I'll show you what I can. Probably gonna die. Hello, friend. Jump back in. Let's get ourselves to auto, super resolution on. Another quick look, make sure everything's running all right. 70, 80. That feels good to me. That's our sweet spot on this laptop. Could dial it down a little bit, probably go to 1440p, and you'd be completely fine, especially if you're, like I said, playing on this screen. Anyway, that's a very, very quick look at some of the settings in Cyberpunk and how well the Razer Blade 16 handles that with 4090 in it. Let's jump over to something different. Maybe some Starfield? Let's do some Starfield. See how we go there. Alrighty, Starfield. Let's take a quick look at this one. I dropped off Starfield a while ago and haven't really gone back. We'll have a look and see where Roy is at today. Now, one thing worth of note in the settings for Starfield, if we go to the gameplay options here, sorry, I apologize, display, is that if you turn off borderless full screen, then it's going to obviously put everything into a window. It's super duper annoying. I'm just going to quickly turn off this interface for a second there. So what we want to be looking at today is making sure our graphics presets are as high as possible. Ultra is as far as we can go, and that impacts the render resolution scale. So if I was to drop down to high, it would go to 62%, and Ultra brings it up to 75%. If we really wanted to push the game further than that, then I can manually increase the render resolution scale. But we're not going to do that. I'm not going to spend too long on Starfield. I am just going to have a look and see how well this runs at 4K Ultra with the render resolution set to 75%. Let's get our interface there back on. Have a quick look and see where Roy is at. Bit of controversy with Starfield at the moment, I think, around the fact that they're charging for mods. At least that's the way I understand it. Yeah, let me know in the comments what's going on there, because I haven't really stayed up to date on that. But that just sounds like Bethesda being Bethesda. 82. Okay. Looks pretty good. Now, obviously, we're going to see a lot more of a boost depending on the location we're in, and obviously also if we turn down the resolution scaling there. So we're looking at 54 when we're outside here. I'm in the extreme cold. I've completely forgotten how to play this game. So we're looking at about 52. So what we might try and do here is just dial back some of that resolution, still keeping it at ultra. But we'll bring this down here. Let's get this down to, say, the 60% mark and see if we see a bit of a boost there. Looks good. Back out, back in here. 80, 75, 62, 61. So as you can see, by making some adjustments to there to the resolution scaling, you get a bit of a performance boost there. Might head back inside before I freeze to death. And that's really the tweaks that you're looking at. But this laptop totally can, with its 4090 in it, run the game at 4K with your 75% scaling there. And obviously your interior environments are probably going to be better than your exterior. Getting yourselves at about 80 or so there. We'll just have another quick look at some of these settings. I might just quickly show what it's like if I was to dial it down in the graphics department here. So let's get ourselves down to just high instead and see where we're at. That brings it at 62% for the resolution scaling. We're looking at 79, 80 frames per second. I can't really tell a massive difference, to be honest there. Level 58. Jeez. I'm either really bad or he's really strong. Or both. Maybe it's both. But look, looks beautiful. Starfield is a pretty good looking game. And performing pretty well. Super happy with that. Looks beautiful on this screen. Anyway, we're not going to spend too much time in Starfield, especially since I just died. Let's take a look at maybe some Alan Wake 2. Alrighty. Some Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 was my benchmarking game for my Legion 5, and it still ran it surprisingly thanks to DLSS, but I suspect that the 4090 in this beast of a machine is going to handle it a lot better. Let's see where Mr. Roy is at. And of course, once again, inverted every time. Controls, where are we at? Is it in gameplay? Sensitivity, mouse smoothing, controller, come on. There we are. Get rid of that dirty invert. Graphics, let's have a quick look here. So we're at 2560 by 1600, which is a 16 by 10 resolution. Let's dial ourselves down to 1920 by 1080. There we go. We've got DLSS turned on with FrameGen, VSync going off there too, and our quality preset is about as high as it can go. I suspect that Roy spent some time tweaking this to get it to that point. We also have render resolution there. So what we want to do there is get ourselves to DLAA and just have a bit of a look. So we're looking now 1080p, 67 or so with DLAA turned on. So we're matching there. So we're not mucking around there with the render resolution. It's 1 for 1. And, you know, Alan Wake is a very, very pretty game. It's also a very, very demanding game. And this is probably to be expected. 70 frames or so. Very cool. All right, let's have another quick look at some of these settings here. What we might do is we might see if we can get ourselves, we might jump straight to 1440 there. But again, we've got our render resolution set to the same thing. So even with DLSS turned on, I don't think that it's going to handle that all too well. But let's have a quick look. So now we're dropping ourselves down to about 45 frames per second. And I imagine that from here, once we get into combat, we'll be looking at it taking a bit of a dive after that as well. We're going into a cutscene. No, we're going to a new area. All right, back in again. I think we all know what's going to happen here. We're going to go ahead and go to 2160. And I think that the frame rate here is just going to absolutely turn into a slideshow. It already has 16 frames per second, no good. So that's not going to fly for us. So let's get back in here again. And we'll see if we can find a bit of a sweet spot here. So we could run at 2160 there and then move ourselves into the render resolution of 1080p and see whether or not we get a bit of an increase there, which we should. Still 46, a little bit janky, not handling it as well as we would expect. So now we are going to go back into the options once again. And what we might do is we might get ourselves to, let's see, we'll do 1440. And then we'll get ourselves on a render resolution there of 1280 by 720. See how well we run. 80, 86. And I think that I'll be pretty comfortable there because as we get into combat scenarios, we will very likely see a bit of a drop in the FPS, probably hitting around the 60 FPS or so mark. Once again, I would have loved to have prepared some saves for you guys and you know, spend a little bit more time going through these settings and seeing how it all performs. But at the end of the day, this laptop is very much one that you can sort of set and forget. Putting it at a reasonable resolution of about 1440 and turning everything up to ultra, you'll absolutely have a good time there, and that's what you want. It's not a desktop, but you know, we know it's not a desktop, and if you really want to get every single bit of performance, then that's the territory that you're going to have to go to. You have to enter your 4090 desktop territory. But this is excellent. It's a fantastic portable machine. Very expensive, as mentioned already. I still can't get over that price tag, considering that I spent probably about 1,800 or so on my Legion 5. But you know, if you like your toys and you got the cash, this is absolutely what I would go for. I think that about wraps this one up. This is an absolutely fantastic laptop, and big thanks to Roy, my boss, for letting me borrow it for the afternoon. If you want me to review more laptops, I'm going to need you companies out there to send me some kit, because I certainly can't afford to go out and drop $7,500 on a laptop every time I want to do a review. But yeah, no, this has been a lot of fun. I hope you found it useful, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video, whatever that may be. See you guys.